Well, hello, good evening to you. Welcome. This is Ghana Tonight. We are live on news up here at Desawe Kanda. Also live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, DSV channel 279, all across the world on 3news.com. Tonight, here, with calls have been heightened for the law on the declaration of assets and liabilities of public officers to be amended, but the difficulties should be changed. We speak to a member of parliament who was concerned plus a lawyer on this matter. In the wake of the Sisia Dapa stolen money saga. Also, complaints are rife about bribery and corruption in the accessing of public services in Ghana. Surveys have confirmed the same. Tonight, we stay on the passport office and the Lands Commission. We visited that place earlier today. As always, join us with your comments and your experiences. Also, rather tragically, 5 people have been confirmed dead in floods that affected parts of the northeast region. We have the latest development, including the hearing from the Ghana Meteorological Agency for an update on the situation there and how the rainfall pattern will be in the coming days. So this is something that, especially in the people in the northeast region and most part of the northern region, want to stay with us here and hear from the Ghana Meteorological Agency. As always, let's hear from you. The hashtag we're using is Ghana Tonight on Facebook and Twitter. Let's get talking. Well, let's settle for Ghana Brief.
ECOWAS Army chiefs will meet in Accra on Thursday, August 17, to discuss a possible intervention in Niger, where a military junta held a coup last month. Ministers of Defense, Interior and National Security have been meeting with Parliament's Defense and Interior Committee, but international security consultant Colonel retired Festus Abuaje is questioning the basis of a military intervention in Niger. He said Ghana could compromise its national sovereignty should it contribute troops to the ECOWAS standby force.
So far, Ghana has not told us what the risks are. You see what I mean? It's just saying that we belong to a multilateral organization called ECOWAS, signed the ECOWAS Treaty and so on and so forth. Does that mean that when ECOWAS is going into a ditch, we go along with ECOWAS into the ditch? Then the government has not told us where it's going to find the means to support this endeavor. Some have suggested it's going to come from France. Look, we're going to compromise our sovereignty, but there's no free lunch anywhere in the world. And I want to suggest that given the economic circumstances that we are in, it can never, or it will be very difficult in the national interest to spend money on this intervention.
Former Nigerian President General Olusegun Obasanjo has blamed poor leadership and governance for the continent's woes. He believes change can only occur if the youth take a key role in governance and positively change the narrative. He was speaking at the 15th African Youth and Governance Summit at Mankesim in the Central Region.
The reason or cause for the situation we are in is simply, let us put it as it is simply leadership and governance. We are in bad shape. We are in bad situation because leadership and governance in our different countries, in our sub-region, and indeed in our region of Africa has not been what it should be.
Former Second Lady Matilda Mr. Arthur has faulted the traditional and political leadership for the underdevelopment of the Western region. Speaking at the opening of a Western Regional Development Forum by the Nana Kobna Nketia IV Trust, Matilda Mr. Arthur lamented that the Western region has been neglected and has no legacy.
Where have you been when all the lands are being taken over by Galamsey? Some say that you have sold our lands. Some say that you have fronted for big men. And some even say that you have been given huge amounts of money. Nananum, Awulaimo, did you collect those huge amounts? Or the small amounts, just to allow our waters to be polluted and our lands depleted? What is left of the lands that our forefathers guarded so jealously? And how faithful have you been as custodians of the lands?
9 victims in the Wasio defilement case gave testimony before the judge on the first day of the hearing. The case, which was not open to the public, stretched for over 2 hours, with the accused unable to directly address the victims.
To try and rehabilitate them in a sort. So we are taking every step that is necessary to secure the witnesses. But the witnesses were quite graphic, and you wouldn't believe they were children. They told the story in a very, very consistent, very coherent manner. We want to make sure that all the children that are involved, we are able to take all their testimony before we bring in the technical people like the investigator, the medical doctor, to come and testify.
Managers of 3 hotels in Dansoman and North Kaneshie in the Greater Accra region have been arrested by the police for failing to issue value-added tax invoices. Assistant Commissioner of the Accra Area Enforcement Team of the Ghana Revenue Authority, Joseph Annan, says the 3 will aid the police in investigations as part of enforcement of the test purchase program of the authority.
Last year, May, the collection for VAT was 646, thereabout, million cedis, Ghana cedis. This year, May, it has jumped up to 1.2 billion average. That is by Bank of Ghana governance report. They established, collection for VAT, which works up to around 92.4% increase in the growth of VAT.
Oh, there's more news on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. Now, let me show you this. There's something happening in the northern part of the country. And in fact, when we received this from one of our viewers about a particular school, in fact, there are 2 schools that children there don't have furniture, and they're having to be there and learn on their bellies. And that's what you're seeing on the screen there. The very, very unfortunate situation. And this is what we got from one of our viewers there. And these are 2 schools in there, in Nalerugu specifically. And the schools have 6 classrooms without furniture. This is the Baptist Basic School and EA Basic School in Nalerugu. These children don't have furniture to learn in the classroom. And this is not peculiar to just those 2 schools, specifically the Baptist Basic School and the EA Basic School in the East Mamprushi municipality in the Northeast region, where children are lying on their bellies to learn. And that is a reflection of most of the schools in that particular area. And this is a fundamental concern that has been raised that impacts specifically on the state of basic education, and especially the hard-to-reach communities in this country. But that's the discussion we're going to be having in the coming days, because we are putting a number of such videos together. This is just one of many that we have received from our viewers on this. A number of you already sharing your views on this particular issue, but stay with us. This is something that in the coming days we're going to spend some time on in the wake of the calls for government to consider a review of the free senior high school so that the money that will be saved in there, some of it can be tossed to take care of the basic education situation in the country. But coming up next here on Ghana Tonight. We've raised fundamental questions on the issues of the asset declaration and matters arising, especially because of what's happened in the case of Madam Cecilia Dapaah, and also the revelations and the inconsistencies that have greeted this particular issue as it became public. Fundamental questions have been raised about the asset declaration regime and what has to be done differently to make it bite, so that beyond the anger and all the sentiments that we're expressing, something concrete can be done to ensure that the law will take care of such issues regardless of who is in office as president or otherwise. But take a look at the list of people who are supposed to declare their assets and whether we have records of them doing so. Apart from the president and the vice, the speaker of parliament, deputy speakers, members of parliament, ministers of state and deputies, chief justice, Supreme Court, chairman of the regional tribunal, all these people are supposed to declare their assets before they're even sworn into office or they take up any appointment as public officers into office. Take a look at this. Shraj, ambassador or high commissioner, secretary to the cabinet, governor of the Bank of Ghana and the deputies, chairman of the Electoral Commission and deputies are also supposed to declare their assets, chairman of NCC, officers in the armed forces. Then look at this, presidential staffers and the aides, presidential aides and staffers are also supposed to declare their assets. And as assistant inspector of taxes and above at the GRA, DCEs, police officers of a higher rank, and even including the IGP and officers of the prisons as well. All of them are supposed to declare their assets. He's a member of parliament for the Doma East constituency. He's joining me in the studio for a conversation on this. Thank you so much for making the time to join us.
Thank you very much, Alfred.
Have you declared your assets?
I've declared my assets, Alfred. It was the first thing I did immediately I was elected. So before I was sworn in, I declared my assets.
And it's a reflection of the true state of your assets?
It's exactly what I have.
I see. So we'll find $1 million in your room?
I'd rather have bought you a brand new Benz.
If you had $1 million.
Exactly. But yes, you won't find it because my salary doesn't come up to that. And I can't do any other work unless the speaker gives permission to do that. So clearly, I cannot have such an amount of money sitting in my room anywhere.
I see. So when you were going through the process of filling this asset declaration form, what are some of the issues in there? What's your problem with the asset declaration regime itself?
I mean, Alfred, it's not that I have a problem with the asset declaration regime, but obviously it is a bit laborious and cumbersome. It's difficult.
What do you mean?
Because so if I wish I had a copy of a large huge document that you're supposed to go through it every time to write everything before getting it done and go submit it, where you could have just sat behind your PC anywhere in Ghana, just input all your documentation and then submit it, and it would have been easier. I think the latter sounds more easier for everybody to access these documents and be able to declare their assets than what we are going through now with the forms, the paper form, that it's a whole book, like a book. There are 2 4-page paper, first page, second page, third page, and fourth, that you have to fill it right. And I think there are a lot of people that may not be able to go through the process, especially if you look at the people that the acts have asked them to declare their asset. I mean,
it's quite a tall list.
Yes.
In fact, if you look at the list of persons as indicated in the Constitution, specifically the Asset Declaration Act 1998, Act 550, President, Vice President, Speaker, Minister of State, Chief Justice, Justice of the Supreme Court, Chairman of the Regional Tribunal, Ambassador, High Commissioner, Secretary to the Cabinet, comes down all the way to members of Parliament and so on. Quite a lot.
Exactly. And the citing part, presiding members. We have presiding members in there, Secretary of Metropolitan and Municipal District Assemblies. We have the heads of accountants, internal auditors, procurement officers, planning and budget officers in finance, a lot of these people. Even police officers and prisons officers are all supposed to declare their assets.
Police officers?
Yes. Police officers.
No matter their rank.
Police officers.
So, officers of the police service,
yes,
are supposed to declare their assets.
But my point is, so the inspector in my village, Kobedia Supra, who has ranked through or has rise through the ranks may not have access to this. We'll have to go to the Auditor General's office in my district, go through a whole process to get the form. When he could have just sat behind his machine, called his son, maybe, oh, Kwame, help me to fill this form. And they could have declared it easily. And everybody would have had access to it, and it will be okay.
So what's the current process? So you fill this hard copy. Sorry, you download the hard
copy, or you go to the offices and get the forms, come and fill it, and it's attach the documents, or sometimes you state the documents, or something, you find a way, and then you go and submit it
to the Auditor General.
To the Auditor General. Sealed, and you can't open it. So how do you check the corruption in there? How do you fight it? Because exactly what we are facing now, somebody will say, what did the former minister declare?
So we need a court order.
Exactly.
To have the Auditor General open.
So what about you giving us the opportunity to be able to update it regularly? Where you cannot make changes, but you can update. Because Alfred, a teacher who has been able to be elected as a minister, at first was using a motorbike. Now, when he came, he had a loan to buy a Land Cruiser. But he declared his asset before swearing in as a member of parliament. So he declared his motorbike. Now, he has a Land Cruiser. How does he declare that? You have to wait for 4 years.
Yes, so it's at the end of the
4 years, then you come back.
You declare.
So therefore, then somebody comes, because probably during his time as a member of parliament, he saved. But somebody wouldn't appreciate the fact that the man saved. But he would say because he was a politician, that's why he has acquired that. But you know my problem with this.
But so your issue is that instead of at the end of the 4 years, you come and update and say, now I bought a car. When I was coming in, I had a bicycle, and that's what I've declared on my form. When you buy the car, now that you've been given a loan as an MP to buy a car, you should be given the opportunity to go and update your asset declaration form that now you are the owner of a Land Cruiser.
Exactly. So that tomorrow you won't come and say that, how did I acquire the Land Cruiser?
But the source of your Land Cruiser will be declared.
It depends. It depends. You may not know. You may not know.
But you bought your Land Cruiser with the car alone.
But what about if it's not a loan?
So you didn't buy your Land Cruiser with a loan?
I don't use a Land Cruiser.
I see.
I don't use a Land Cruiser.
You see, that's where the issue is. But let's stay with me. Paul Chumberima is a member of parliament for the Doma East constituency. Martin Pebo is joining me on Zoom. He's a private legal practitioner. He's the leader of the Kume Breko Reloaded demonstration. So, Pebo, thank you so much for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. So this is the argument that the MP in the studio is making, that instead of this asset declaration in the current regime where before you assume office, you declare, and then after before you leave office, you declare after 4 years, it should rather be amended so that they can update it on a yearly basis. Would that make any difference?
Super duper, right? Yes, I'll say super duper because that's actually been one of the recommendations and one of the cutting edge researches done by Transparency International as far back as 2013. Yes, so in that paper, Transparency International, having been funded by the European Union, the European Commission to do a paper on asset declaration law, etc. You see that they make that point that, look, it would be useful to have the declarations be early. You can have a 4-year system, okay, and also that it should be done yearly as well. So but the yearly one would be that you update it if you bought. If you haven't, then don't. But it comes with consequences that if you don't update and somebody goes to lodge a complaint and then there are investigations and it's found that you had acquired a certain asset over a period of time and you didn't update it, then you'll be in trouble. Yes, because I can imagine that somebody too may say, or let's say a public officer may say, okay, maybe over a period of 4 years, he's been struggling, so he hasn't acquired anything that will require any new declaration. Yes, of course, it's not every public officer that will make so much money. No, let's look. Some will make illegal money, others may not. So we can couch the provision in such a way that, look, there are the mandatory ones every 4 years. Then there are the ones that we say, look, we are not compelling you, but it's open that as and when you buy a new asset, go and declare. If you don't declare, it still carries the same consequences. Yes, and I think with that, we'll be there. I mean, like, at least we'll make a lot of progress. At least that's what the paper that I've referred to
I see,
says.
but I'm looking at the list of people who are to declare the asset, which we put on the screen earlier, and police officers, prison officers, senior officers, and so on, presidential staffers and aides. Will the conduct of public officers bill, as we're currently pushing for, make any difference or improve on the system as we have it now?
So, of course, if there is somebody who is a chief inspector, and we know that his, what do you call it, his income is way above what he earns, or he has property way above what he earns, still, there's opportunity to report him, okay, to the police hierarchy, and he'll be dealt with. But if we are seeing that maybe with modern times, we are thinking that even inspectors should be roped in, why not? We can look at it based on research.
So, but well, Lawyer Matikpebo, appreciate it, but stay with me. Let's take a look at this and these categories of persons and whether really this is going to make any difference. But Mr. Porchum Brema is the Domais Member of Parliament, still with me in studio. So how much of a difference really? Because you say you've declared your assets. So then what's the issue with this?
But so my point is, we need to, but one critical part of it, the whole of this is that based on what we have, can Auditor General tell us that all these people have declared their assets?
Obviously not.
Haven't we broken the law?
And there's a punishment for not doing that.
And it's a statutory something. So how are we ensuring that these things are done? How are we ensuring that, listen, people do the right thing so that we will be able to check and fight the corruption that we talk about? Because don't forget that we also need to make the forms and make the process accessible and friendly to them. Because if I was employed as an SS, let's say SS staff, I've run through, I've rise through the ranks and become some senior officer, and I'm not, I mean, I've not been used to this. How do I do it? Well, but if you see, if you're able to bring it to me, to my doorstep, that listen, go on the net, that everything now, mobile phone is accessible. If you even send, if Auditor General can send us all messages, that, oh.
But you know that you're supposed to declare your assets.
Some people don't know. Oh. I can confidently tell you.
Ignorance of the law is obviously.
So therefore,
there are institutions that are supposed to.
So therefore,
to know this.
So therefore, how are we enforcing it to fight the corruption?
So the current asset declaration regime is weak.
But that is what we have now, because if we are saying, because can you tell us that 261 presiding members, have they all of them, have they declared their assets? Can they say the 261 district chief executive or MMDs, have they declared their assets?
There must be something more than just making the process a bit more accommodating.
So then
there are people who, no matter how you digitize this or so,
so then,
if they don't
then
want
the other leg
assets,
that I want to talk about is the NCC. Then NCC must also help us to understand why that if you're a public officer, it is a statutory requirement that you declare your assets at a certain point. Because
police officers,
because as we
and
sit,
prisons officers,
as we sit now, if we want to go into this, trust me, you can have almost about 40 to 50% of public service and agencies workers who have flouted this law.
Do you know any of your colleague MPs who haven't declared their assets?
I'm sure. If you go through, you may find one. But as at the last time I checked, everybody have declared because the speaker was very firm on that.
That all MPs should go and declare their assets.
He was very firm.
But can you say that for the other arms of government as well?
That is why.
The executive?
For that, I cannot speak for them.
The presidential staffers? Presidential staffers are
yes,
supposed to declare their assets.
Yes, right? Presidential staff and aides. I think, you see, when we don't take care as a country, we'll have a lot of laws, but nothing will work for us. Because this, for me, is something that can fight corruption to a certain stage for us.
The asset declaration?
Yes. Because really and truly, if the former minister have declared her assets, probably we would have known what she's declared. If she have had opportunity to update in the course of the year or 4 years, we would have known what she have added on. And indeed, even that update can trigger some sort of, inquiries. Because you can't tell us that your salary is about 15,000, and all of a sudden you come to tell us that, oh, in 2 years, you've bought about $2 million mansion. Obviously, if it comes,
raise fundamental questions.
Exactly. So any person who is in charge of that one can raise red flag that no, Fortune Berman is telling us he has bought a $2 million mansion in less than 6 months, knowing his salary. Please, we need to inquire.
But that's the evidence we're seeing, that people get into politics and in the very short period, they acquire property through very questionable means. And they're making money at the expense of the Ghanaian
Alfred,
people.
I can confidently tell you. You see, it's a tall list. But when we go through the list, the president have declared, vice has declared, speakers, they've all declared, members of parliament, I'm sure they've all declared. The ministers of state will also follow suit. But trust me, let's go beyond. The vehicle examiner level, rank of vehicle examiner at DVL is supposed to declare. Let's go and find out if they have declared. Those are the technocrats.
Well, you just told me that you can't state whether
the
executive, whether they
ensure
that all the ministers have declared their assets.
If we want to go through this, if we want to go through people who have acquired a lot of things that we don't know.
But you see, in the end, the politician cannot also be excused from the corruption that goes on.
You see, we cannot. That's what you see. We are played to it sometimes, and you need to have that sort of character to be able to move away from it sometimes, because sometimes you'll be there and a document will be brought to for you to sign. You may sign and rather realize that this document was a wrong document.
So you have to be vigilant.
Exactly. But it's not all of them sometimes. Let's be frank. Once a while, you may go off, which is wrong anyway. You cannot be praised for that. But the technocrats will aid us. No politician will come and just says, oh, I know how to serve, I know how to do it. If you go to any ministry, you need somebody to take you through. I can confidently tell I knew some ministers who were deputy ministers who didn't know even how to minute on a document.
You didn't know how to minute a document?
Yes. So when you go to the civil service, they will teach you how civil service minutes their documents.
Would you support, in fact, there have been calls for the public declaration of the assets of people, in addition to these proposals that you are making as well, so that Pochum Berima, if you say that before you took over or you became member of parliament, you had a bicycle, and at the end, you have 2 vehicles, that asset declaration should have been made public. Then everybody will see that, yes, indeed, this is what you're saying.
So you see why the regular update would have been better for this. Because now, if I come with a bicycle and I end with 2 vehicles, definitely the person down there will think, no, I have amassed some wealth somewhere, will not understand it.
But the source of your wealth.
But you see,
the question about the source
don't forget that
would answer that.
Don't forget that when I was using a bicycle, I was a teacher. So my salary was at a certain level. When I became a member of parliament, my salary has gone up. So I could save to buy another vehicle, not necessarily going for a loan or using government's money.
There's evidence of the source of your wealth.
Exactly. But so if I declare it, and you get to know that in 2022 he said, he's now earning this amount. So in this amount he has to, because as part of the declaration, you also declare your bank statement,
Indeed.
and all that.
And so this conversation is going to continue. In fact, Martin Pebo says it's a good idea, and that really there's been some research that supports that. So you are a member of parliament, and so this matter and this particular call that you're making, beyond this particular conversation, let's see how it plays out, especially because of what's happening in this Cecilia Dapa case and matters arising. Like Martin Pebo, you have and also made the point about the Conduct of Public Officers Bill, which we would also deal with in the coming days on this matter. But Paul Chumberima